Right now at 6, a violent attack caught on camera aboard an RTD bus.
It was horrific as far as I'm concerned. It sent chills through me.
And scenes like this are becoming more common on public transit.
When I first started, that was unheard of for someone to approach you.
Tonight, we have a 360 in-depth look at transit safety and what can be done to protect both drivers and riders.
We vowed 10 years ago to never let their memory be forgotten.
This was a tough day. Knew it was coming.
As we approach the 10-year anniversary of the Aurora theater shooting, we honor the victims tragically taken too soon. Good evening. Thank you for watching Denver 7 News at 6. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Jessica Porter. For years, we've covered stories of violence aboard RTD buses and trains. We've seen videos and heard stories from victims.
And none seems to be as egregious as the one you are about to see. I've got to warn you, it may be hard for some people to watch.
It shows a man on the phone suddenly attacking another man at random, stabbing him several times. That 22-year-old victim has autism and other mental disorders. He suffered wounds to his chest, back, neck, and hand.
So will this be the final straw? And how are RTD employees reacting to this video?
Denver 7's Megan Lopez kicks off our 360 in-depth coverage.
So that stabbing happened on an RTD bus that was headed up Colfax Avenue on June 30th. Police still have not arrested or identified the suspect involved, but we spoke with the RTD Employees Union and they tell us they're seeing more of these incidents and their operators are worried. The video is hard to watch. Video of a man in an orange sweatshirt on an RTD bus talking on the phone. Video showing that man reaching into his pocket and pulling out a large knife. He then gets up and moves out of frame, still talking on the phone. A few seconds later, he and the victim stumble back into the frame, holding on to one another. He stabs the man 3 more times, twice in the back and once in the neck. The bus stops, the doors open, and a bystander intervenes. Both the victim and the suspect get off the bus.
It was horrific as far as I'm concerned. It sent chills through me.
Ron Short is the vice president of the ATU Local 1001, which represents RTD employees. He's been operating a bus for 23 years.
When I first started, that was unheard of for someone to approach you.
But now he says incidents of violence against drivers and other passengers are getting worse.
And we've seen a drastic increase.
He's been spit on, so have others. There have been verbal attacks, physical violence, and more demands on drivers.
We're just facing a whole totally new dynamic, but operators are afraid. But now we're forced to be being psychiatrists, security guards.
And he's worried that the violence is being normalized as just part of the job. Some operators won't even report it. The union has formed an operator assault committee to go to court with the employees and testify.
To encourage them to stiffen penalties so we could put some kind of hold on this and hold people responsible. Because before I started doing that, it was more or less a slap on the wrist. They would get a fine.
But once the court case is settled, those passengers often end up on the bus once again with the same driver they assaulted. Short doesn't blame RTD solely, but says something needs to change.
I think it's a communal effort, and all the municipalities need to join in and help.
Because violence like this shouldn't be acceptable anywhere. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
Let's now take a closer look at the data. We compared dispatch data from RTD Transit Police between 2019 and May of this year. In 2019, their officers responded to 42 assault calls. That number jumped to 139 in 2021. In 2019, 18 calls were made for weapons offenses, and that number increased to 87 in 2021. They also requested data about narcotics calls. Transit officers responded to 33 narcotics calls in 2019, and that number spiked to 174 in the first 5 months of this year.
And we want to share a different take about the safety of transit employees. This year, more than 20 labor unions wrote a letter to the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Federal Transit Authority demanding federal action to protect workers. RTD's general manager and CEO says she has seen a shift in recent years.
I think it's more prevalent just because of the environment in which we're in. Coming out of COVID, just across the board, it seems as people aren't as kind and generous as they used to be. And recognizing that people are dealing with a myriad of things that we know nothing about.
And those labor unions are asking the federal government to strengthen penalties against those who attack employees. Now, we have covered this story extensively over the past few years. You can find all of our coverage right now on thedenverchannel.com.
A 14-hour standoff ended early this morning in Aurora with a police shooting and killing a man wanted for murder. At one point, police used an armored vehicle to get inside the home where 27-year-old Fabian Perry barricaded himself. This happened on Oswego Street right near Del Mar Park in Aurora. Perry was wanted in Roswell, Georgia, where police there say he killed the mother of his children. The standoff ended around 2 this morning with Aurora police and Arapahoe County deputies shooting Perry after he came out of the home holding a rifle. Denver's police department plans to provide an update tomorrow on the Sunday morning police shooting. Police gunfire injured 5 innocent bystanders in downtown Denver. New information was released today by the Department of Corrections. They say 21-year-old Jordan Waddy was wearing an ankle monitor and broke curfew when officers tried to stop him. Police fired shots into a crowd as they attempted to stop Waddy, who they say flashed a gun at officers.
Tonight marks the 10-year anniversary of the Aurora Theater shooting. At midnight tonight, there will be a vigil at the 720 Memorial outside the Aurora Municipal Center. The garden space and White Cross Memorial, that will open tonight at 8 o'clock. And the candlelight procession at the entrance to the garden will start a minute before midnight. And today, Colorado Congressman Jason Crow held a virtual press conference to commemorate the 10-year anniversary. State Representative Tom Sullivan joined in the chat, and his son Alex was killed in the shooting. He would have turned 37 tomorrow. And Sullivan shared this message for all the other victims and survivors out there.
I hope that all of the other survivors and victims have the ability to get through the day. We're all in this together. We all have one another to lean on, and I appreciate everybody taking this time to remember, all 12 of the people who were murdered that day, and the 70 others who were injured, and the countless thousands who were impacted, and have to figure out a way to get through each and every day.
The White Crosses are at the memorial until 5 p.m. on Sunday, and tonight's vigil will also be streamed online.
New tonight, the city of Denver is placing more limits on which businesses can deliver marijuana throughout the metro. This decision just came down within the past 30 minutes. City leaders spoke exclusively with Denver 7's Micah Smith, and she joins us now with how it aims to make the industry more equitable.
I talked to Denver's Department of Excise and Licenses Executive Director Molly Duplashane this morning, and she says the plan is to reserve all marijuana delivery licenses for social equity businesses. Social equity businesses are owned by Coloradans who have disproportionately been impacted by the war on drugs. In an effort to help those with previous marijuana convictions break into the industry, Denver reserved delivery licenses for social equity businesses for the first 3 years after delivery was legalized. But Duplashane says after fighting to legalize marijuana delivery, few dispensaries have taken advantage of it.
Well, what we've heard is that some of the existing industry may have been waiting the exclusivity period out, or they could have been investing in a social equity transporter and then planning to move to do their own delivery in 2 years. So again, we just want to provide this certainty so that social equity transporters can build their business and know that they'll have opportunity going forward beyond the next 2 years.
Next, the Department of Excise and Licenses will present the proposal to City Council. The department expects the new law to take effect within the next few weeks. Back to you.
Micah, thank you. The city says tax revenue from marijuana sales in Denver rose for the 7th consecutive year to $72.4 million.
An Iowa family is hoping you can honor their 4-year-old boy who was tragically killed in a freak accident in Littleton last week. This is Maximilian Wood. He was slacklining with friends in the backyard of a home when a tree fell down right on top of him. And his family released these pictures today, along with a letter asking people to honor Maximilian by spreading love and friendship. They say he had a larger-than-life heart and an old soul, and they say he would make friends with everyone, and no one was a stranger. Jefferson County deputies say this was nothing more than an accident, and they are not looking at any kind of charges.
A public meeting just got underway in Louisville that could help thousands of homeowners who had their homes destroyed in the Marshall Fire back in December. Residents rallied outside Louisville City Hall this past weekend against the use tax rate. That rate is for new buildings and would be 3.6%. For a new home, that would add about $25,000 to the build cost. Fire victims say they want the city to help because they're already dealing with so many unexpected financial burdens.
I think the whole community is standing up and saying, well, of course, this is what we need. It can be done. It just takes the will and it takes the work.
Victims are asking the city to waive the tax because Superior did the same thing months ago. And we have a crew inside the Louisville meeting right now, and we'll have updates for you tonight at 10.
High 90s and low 100s today, but there is a cold front on the way. I'll let you know when that cooler air arrives.
Thousands of guests have called their lodge home.
It's just kind of overwhelming, you know, it's crazy to see all the history that is here for over 100 years.
With nearly each one leaving behind a little piece of history.
We've got well over 20,000, close to 30,000 keys that hang from the ceiling and the walls.